Cybersecurity is an ever-growing field, and representation within it matters more than ever. We here at the Other Side of the Firewall podcast strive to highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, people of color who have made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall into those senior and C-suite level positions. Aside from interviews of IT professionals just like you, our crew will have fun discussing the latest and greatest news, measures to protect yourself from bad actors on the interwebs, and sprinkle in some games entertainment as well. Now with that out of the way, let's get to the show.
Hey, listeners, this is Ryan. This is just a little public service announcement. During post production, I noticed that we're having a lag issue, and I think it's due to me being so far away from my co host, almost 7,000 miles. It may have induced a little bit of lag, and then it caused time sync to kind of go crazy between me and my co host. It doesn't happen until around the hour mark, so please bear with us. We're going to get this fixed for the future, and please enjoy the show. I thought it was great. Just at the very end, we do have some audio issues. Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. My name is Ryan Williams, and today, as always, I'm joined by
What's up? What's
Shannon
up?
Tynes and Levon Maynard.
Good day to you.
Today's show, we will discuss our thoughts, beliefs, hopes, etc. for this platform and a powerful mobile phone surveillance tool out there in the wild. But first, how's everybody's New Year?
Man, New Year, I'll tell you like this. For the last couple of years, I don't even know if I've even made it to midnight, right? Like it's one of those things where if you're over 30, you probably got to take a nap to make it to midnight. Well, I'll say 35. If you're over 35, you probably got to take a nap to get to midnight. And for me, we actually made it this year, but it wasn't because we were celebrating, New Year's or anything like that. Like we just happened to be watching a movie when midnight came across and was like, oh, okay. I guess I'll kiss you now. So I said to my wife, I guess I'll give you a kiss.
It's like a killer.
But no, it's not even something I really celebrate, man. Like I'm a homebody. I don't go out anywhere. If I go out somewhere, people are drinking. I'm probably too scared to be out there driving, coming home, worried about other people. So stayed in the house, watched a movie. That was about it, man. But the New Year seems like the last year. I can't complain.
Which movie did you watch?
What were we watching? We were watching it was Avengers 2, actually, Age of Ultron.
Oh, okay.
Which people don't seem to like, but I like that movie. I don't know why.
Yeah. I don't. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a fan of the second.
That's all good. I like that one too, though. It has like a lot of different. I don't know. Just the boss, the bad guy, the main antagonist in that movie. Just he's kind of cool. He's kind of different.
Great voice actor. Right?
His perspective on him. Yeah. But yeah, I'm just like Shannon too. I kind of once you get past a certain age, I think New Year's becomes kind of a just a challenge just to even stay awake past 12 o'clock, and then we're not partying like the youngsters going out to the clubs and drinking it up. Obviously, I mean it's COVID now, so COVID time, so I know a lot of that stuff's not going on, but even if it wasn't going on, I'd probably be doing the same thing I did this year, which was stay home and watch the ball drop. And we had a little glass of sparkling cider. I had some little hors d'oeuvres or whatever, some appetizers to munch on. But besides that, it's pretty chill, laid back, and I did a quick call with the family, did like a video call with me and some of the family, just celebrating the new year, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much all I did.
How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I did way more than me.
Yeah.
So I'll continue to make this party lame. So I went to sleep probably like 11 o'clock my time, just so I can wake up for midnight East Coast, and then count down with my wife and kids. But then they went to sleep right after that. So.
Nice. Dang, that sounds like, man,
pretty boring.
Oh my God, that sounds super exciting.
That's because you hit the New Year before all of us. It was old news by the time it got to them. You know what I mean? You're like,
right.
Yeah, almost a whole day before y'all.
Right.
It's like no ball dropping over here. Dropping no ball over here.
Y'all just now celebrating that? Dang, celebrate that hours ago.
But yeah, I didn't really do anything either. You know, it's COVID season. Like next year though, I'm gonna actually do something. I never do anything, but next year,
Mm.
if the world doesn't descend into chaos, I'm going out.
Yeah. What you think you're gonna do? You're gonna try to like party up somewhere? You're gonna try to hit up some friends or something like that, friends or family?
Uh, I should be back in Florida. So they do something on the Riverwalk. So I did it 2 years ago. So 2019, I actually went there and they dropped the ball. They have like a concert
Mm.
out by the water. It's really nice,
Nice.
really nice.
Dang.
They didn't do that this year, obviously, because it's like packed shoulder to shoulder if they had done it.
Right.
So hopefully, next year, things will be different, but we'll see.
That's what's up.
But hey, I appreciate y'all jumping on. I know, it's a long weekend for everybody, but I think, there's plenty to talk about this week. When it comes to topic one, what I wanted to delve into was kind of about the platform. Or not just kind of, but definitely about the platform. We've all had conversations about it, kind of what we're going for here. And I actually had some interactions online with people of color, and everybody's perspective is not the same. So I kind of just wanted to, bounce off my thoughts of the platform. Um, I actually made little notes. I had three mini points, right? I wanted to discuss why the platform exists. I wanted to discuss scrolling. Uh, my concerns about the messaging and perception because everybody does not see the same definition of people of color that I may see. And then the third point being why I'm going to keep pressing with the platform. And, I take feedback, constructive and otherwise. So I'm just trying to get a hold of what people's needs are and then, what I perceive my ability and our ability as a team is to meet those needs. Um, so I guess a little bit of the backstory. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I discussed with my wife. I wanted to get my credentials up, kind of get my cyber street cred up a little bit before I jumped into it. But 2020 was a very trying time for all of us, and IT, as we all know, is not very diverse. So there's lots of diversity programs. They're trying to make it more diverse, but when it comes down to it, it's not very diverse. Almost 70% of IT are not people of color, and most of them are male. So there's not a lot of women in it, and there's definitely not a lot of people of color in it. Uh, Blacks make up 7% or less. I think Asians make up like maybe 14%. Hispanics make up maybe 11%. Those numbers might not be very accurate um, per se, but those are the highs if those numbers were to be investigated. So I thought, hey, you know what? I know a bunch of people of color who are in IT. I see a lot of it, being a military veteran. But then when you cross over to the civilian sector, it drops off tremendously. So before we move on to point number two, I just kind of want to get you guys' thoughts. Uh, Obviously, I picked my team from the people that I worked with, people I know who are knowledgeable, the people I know who have the credentials and experience to make this platform happen. However, ourselves, we're not a very diverse team. We're three Black men. Um, so I had my list of people I definitely wanted to go to. You two were my top. Call it a crime of proximity. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily know a ton of people of color who
That's okay.
in IT who aren't Black males,
Right.
but it's more diverse than it otherwise would be. But let me get
So
to
yeah, when you approached me about it, it was something that I had thought about, right? In 2020, with other things that are going on, and again, I don't want to get into politics or anything like that, but with some other stuff that was going on in the world, it was something that kind of came up a little more brighter for me to think about and more to the forefront, right? So it's something that you notice and you see, and you're like, yeah, I see. I guess that's just the way it is. But after 2020, it was, or coming up into 2020, it was one of those things where uh, I retired in, was that 2019? So 1 February 2019 was my first day as a civilian. And I noticed that that even though there was minorities in the military, we were the minority in the military, and it wasn't as many of us, people of color when it came to IT. I noticed it got to be even less as I went into the civilian sector, right? Um, and it's weird to say, but when you talk to some people that come out of the military, I'm starting to see a lot of them, and this is IT folks I know even that don't stay in IT, right? So I don't know if it's a matter of they're not able to get the jobs, they don't want the jobs, or there just was never their passion, right? Whatever it may be, but I'm seeing that they're going into other ventures, right? And maybe again, it just wasn't their passion. Maybe it was something they did for the military, and they decided to pursue it. And the military does a pretty good job of keeping you certified, keeping you doing things that they need you to do, right? They're getting a lot better at it than what they used to when I first got into the career field back in 2004, right? Used to be a little bit behind in DoD, but that's no longer the case, right? Because we see how serious it is. Just in our last few weeks of topics, I mean, specifically, it has hit DoD, other U.S. departments, places that handle things that
Right.
are very serious for us. So we've gotten more into thinking about it, and it's more care and more attention is being paid when it comes to IT. But no, this is something that's a very good subject, right? So it's one of those things that and I'll put this out there, right? I know it's not like a family show or anything like that, but I'm actually in an interracial marriage, right? So for me, it's one of those things I worry about with my children, where it's like it's kind of like the one drop of black blood rule, right? It only takes one and you're black. It doesn't matter, right? That's just kind of how
Right.
that's how, kind of how
Right.
society sees it. So it's one of those things where when you have to have these conversations with your children, if my sons and daughters, if they want to pursue what I'm doing, they want to get into IT, well, Dad, what did you do? Well, I went around and did this route, right? And these are the pitfalls you need to look out for. Right now, I'm not a major CEO of a company, right? But I could tell you what I think a major CEO of a company needs to be looking for, right? But it's just conversations that I have to have with my children, and it's a little weird because I think because I'm in an interracial marriage and my children are biracial, that they will have to deal with this in a situation where they may not be accepted anywhere, right? Like they may not be accepted on that 70%, right? They may not be accepted in that 6%. You said, Ryan, was 6%? Some, yeah, 6%. You know
Right.
what I'm
Roughly
saying?
six or
Because it's
seven
like, oh
percent.
no,
Yeah.
you're not on this side. Oh no, you're not on this side. But it is. I want it to be to where there is a big pie here. So let's not go and look at this like, oh, if we give more to people of color, like we have to make the pie bigger. No, the pie is large enough. You know what I mean? The pie is large enough for everybody to coincide inside of this. Is my stance, right? And again, if you guys feel different, I mean, let's make the opinion known. But it's not like we have to bake a bigger pie. Everything is there for us. It's just a matter of making the opportunities get out there. We're not trying to take anything from anyone else. Just want the equal shot at it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Give me the equal
Right.
chance. But that's kind of
Right.
my stance on
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think Shannon makes some great points. I feel a lot, feel very similar to what Shannon feels as far as a lot of these points. Obviously, 2020 has been a very important year for everybody as far as a lot of things going on, and even like some of the culture clashes uh, um, that have been going on throughout the year. And I think obviously IT, um, I guess statistically, is not as well represented of the minority population, at least like the black, as far as I can I've seen, compared to other jobs or other opportunities out there. So I think it's great that there's a platform that people of color, as well as people not of color, as well, if they want to get a perspective of people of color as well, or even get some information that we can kind of show that people of color uh, can make an impact. People of color have knowledge and skills in these various fields, and that if another person that maybe has not, taken that jump, that leap to try to get into the field or to try to educate themselves, they can see that it can be done. And there's a lot of I think we're all successful in our ways as far as our IT careers or our professional careers, and I think this is a great platform for that. Great platform for people to be able to see that, as well as for us to kind of discuss some of the things that are going on in the world. Um, whether it just affects us or just big news stories that affect companies in general, or your data and privacy and things like that. I think it's a great way to get that information out there. But yeah, I think I feel a lot of the same things that Shannon mentioned, that um, you know it's been a tough year, and I think if we can kind of analyze, some of these companies can kind of take a look at their hiring practices, and just make sure that they're doing their best to represent everybody, and make sure that people that are working for the company are um, being taken care of, as far as just as equally as other employees, are not being shunned for their views or their perspective on things. I think it's very important that that kind of stuff is kind of uh, I don't know, kind of analyzed or kind of viewed, and made sure that it kind of corresponds with the culture in America. And I think, you know, if we can get IT, jobs in general to be kind of representative of the population in the states, I think that would be a great thing. And hopefully, this is like a small thing that we can do to kind of help push that along, and help inspire some other people to
And
make those
and
choices.
that's what
So,
and that is the hope, right? Like that, we hope that someone does listen to this, and maybe it does give them a greater appreciation for IT, right? Because we discussed a few weeks ago that the
mhm.
stuff our children are growing up with now, like I never did anything like this, right? Like, me and my wife were having a conversation the other day because we were watching a movie and a typewriter was on there. We were talking about how we do stuff in school
Yeah,
on typewriters, right? My children don't know what a typewriter
right.
is, right? If I put a typewriter down in front of my children, they'd be like,
Hmm.
"What is this?" You know what I mean? But in
Right,
this day and age, and
right.
again with us doing a podcast, right? Like this is the medium for you to get stuff out to the younger generations of today, and even the older ones, right? Like there are older people doing podcasts as well. But the hope is that we spark the interest for people of color to further pursue this, right? And again, IT is not for everybody, right? We all get this, but it's one of the things where
Hmm.
even when we do stuff like, even though we are kind of aimed at people of color, not everything we talk about is specifically about that, right? Like we talk about games, you know what I mean? We talk about movies. I mean, it's
Hmm.
all
Yeah,
around, about the stuff that's going on.
absolutely. I think that's
Yeah,
important too. Yeah,
definitely.
because it's not for everybody. And then, like you were saying, I mean, we talk about other things besides IT. People just to kind of relate on, get our personality and our perspective on just like fun things that we like to do to keep ourselves entertained. And I think that's important as well.
Right, definitely. And before I move on to my mini point number two, I want to circle back to something Shannon said, where he said that basically the pie is big enough. It's just a matter of being the proper proportions, right?
Hmm.
But I would like to take it even a step further. So back in 2017, Cisco had their whole CCNA Cyber Ops initiative, where they're trying to find um, people of color, women, veterans to fulfill security roles, because they projected that there was 1 million positions in cybersecurity that were vacant or should be opened up soon to protect industry, so on and so forth. And now we see now in 2020, they weren't that far off, because another nation state completely clowned us and get into almost every valuable and vulnerable network that we had at a national level. So there's more than enough space. Like if someone of color wants to pursue cyber, jobs will be opening up. If they're not already open, because they already said there's 1 million vacancies, there will be more openings. So hopefully, like you guys were saying, this does inspire like somebody who wanted to dabble in IT. Maybe they'll pursue that cyber route, only because like it's almost akin to being a firefighter right now. Like everybody is booking it. Like you saw a few companies lost their CEOs prior to this breach, and they're probably going to lose even more CIOs and CEOs who just weren't paying attention. So we need people to rush in and learn these skills and move up the ladder. So I definitely see lots of opportunities. If there was 1 million back in 2017, there's got to be
Right? Yeah,
2, 3 million
for
now
sure. Demand went up, right?
that are
Yeah.
vacant. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
especially in cyber. And then when it comes to my point number two, so I have some concerns about messaging and perception, right? So I had some messaging issues when I was trying to explain what I was going for, even when I spoke to family members as well as to you guys. Like, is it people of color, meaning that we're spotlighting a specific person of color. Like, is this a Black IT podcast, to which those do exist, or is this a big tent? Uh, any pretty much anybody who's not trying to think. It's rather reductive, but if you distill people of color as a terminology, what I have read and understand to be is people who are non-white is basically what it can boil down to. Like, obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but um, because IT is predominantly white, um, people of color in IT are the minorities, the people who are not of white descent that make up the other, what is that? 68
32.
minus 100. I can't do math in public.
32.
20. There you go.
Nice.
they didn't hire me for math skills. All right. So what I'm trying to get across is that it's big tent. Like, we are three Black men who have skills and knowledge to do with IT. And again, if this is a crime, then it's a crime of proximity. These are the people I know, and I know to be knowledgeable and to help make me more well-rounded, right? When we talk about these topics, do I know Black women, Hispanic men, Hispanic women, so on and so forth, Asian men and women? Yes, I do. There's a few more on my list that these guys had turned me down, but they didn't. So blame them. they took your jobs, right? But in all seriousness, that is the general idea. And when we have people on and we interview those people, they won't just be Black people in IT. It'll be other people that we have made connections with that are doing amazing things in IT as well. So it's big tent. But my concern is everybody does not see that terminology the same. And I fear it may be an age and demographic situation. So I was telling Shannon recently, I got into a conversation on LinkedIn. It was pretty civil because LinkedIn is pretty civil. It wasn't like a Twitter argument. But in one of my circles that I'm connected to in there, they were spotlighting I think she was first generation Vietnamese woman. She was both the youngest and maybe the first Vietnamese woman to hold a political position, and I believe it was California. So she met those two criteria, and they were calling her a woman of color, and I actually saw some backlash because of it. So that blew my mind. Maybe because I'm a millennial and people of color has been a term that meant something different to me. Then I saw older people comment that she was not a woman of color. One man, I thought he was asking a question because he was like, "What woman of color?" So I naively responded, "This woman of color," and then I kind of broke down what people of color meant. His response was, "I believe in 1909, that's not what the NAACP meant by people of color." To which I was completely perplexed, right? Because it's not people of color, it's colored people. And I thought that was them turning a pejorative into a platform of power. But again, there's an age difference there. This man was looking at his picture, he had to be in his mid to late 40s, maybe even 50s. And here I am in my mid 30s. Perhaps we see it differently. So that leads me to ask you guys the question. We're pretty much all the same age range, but obviously experience is different. But do you think that there is a conflict there? Like, do you perceive that maybe the marketing isn't necessarily meshing well with the
So I think, like, to go to
messaging?
your NAACP argument, right? So, like, when you see the NAACP take action, who's it usually for, right? That's kind of how they get associated with just Black people, right? You know
Right.
what I mean? Advancement of colored people, like, okay, well, that doesn't say just Black people, right? Like you were saying. I feel the same way. So it's not just Black people, right? It can be Black, Asian, Latin, whatever it is. But I have seen some other things. So, like, I've read up on this as well, and I've seen some things where you will see, even Hispanic people will say, "Hey, we're not people of color," you know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe I just don't understand it because I am. I mean, I'll put it out there. I think I'm the oldest of the three of us, right? I don't have a 4 in the beginning of my age yet, but I think I'm the oldest of all. of us, right? But like, I see what you're saying, right? Like to me, and this is a discussion we've kind of had, kind of off air, if you want to say, or whatever, about what we're going to present, right? We don't want to just make it seem like we're only talking about black people, but when you look in the news, what is happening, right? It's usually against black people. That 6% is taking, like, if I was to guess, 90% of the racism, or what am I trying to say? Racial injustice, things of that nature. It usually comes to, black people. You know what I mean? So I think that's why it may be one of those things where people hear the term people of color and immediately they go to black, right? That's just what they do. But no, I don't agree with that either, though. I think it should be anyone who is not white is my thinking behind it. And again, I've read up on this, right? And I'm one of those people that I will take in all information, right? I don't go to just one source to reaffirm what I already think, right? The way you get educated and the way you get smarter is going out and reading different things, right? Like I read different news articles. I read things that I'm fairly certain feel different from what I do, but I need to go out there, right? I can't go into the echo chambers and see stuff that just agrees with my point of view, right? I heard DL Hughley say this one time, right? And it was very insightful. It was he actually went on to Fox, and it was Megyn Kelly, I think it was, he went against, and they kind of got into an argument. And he said, only cowards play home games. That's what he said. So if you want to learn something different, or if you want to teach somebody something different, you got to go out there where you're not welcome. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's what we're doing. I'm not saying we're trying to make enemies of people or anything like that, right? But it's not one. But it's not one of those things either where we're going out there and saying, okay, people who are not people of color can't listen to this podcast. This podcast is for everyone to listen to, right? But it does have an audience that it's going for to help them, right? But this is how people who are not people of color can learn, right? These are the experiences. These are the things that are going on out there that they may not be aware of because they may have went to their echo chamber, right? Their news source may not be putting out there, Dr. Gabriel, is going through this, or the other female, the other woman, her name escapes me, the one that the partnership with Google. Abigail, there you go. The situation that's going on with them, where they terminated the partnership with Google. They just may not be seeing that, right? And again, it may not be intentional. It may just be that's one of those things, right? Like these different news organizations get ratings because the people are going to them because it either reinforces what they want to hear, or it's stuff that they know. Well, kind of along the same lines. It's stuff that they want to hear, but that's kind of my feeling on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I think. Yeah, I think it's definitely a valid point as far as like it's definitely worth discussing. I know off the air we talked about this a little bit, but I don't want to like speak for any other group, but I know that other cultures they may find that it's almost like it's kind of a negative connotation for some cultures, in Asian or Latin cultures, to be described as a person of color, or even in the culture themselves, like having a darker complexion. It's not like looked at as like a highlight. So I think a lot of several cultures potentially don't like to use that phrase to describe them. And I can understand that to extent. Obviously, it's definitely got to respect people's views, and because it is kind of very generalized. And I mean, people of color, just saying that you're not white, and there's there's a lot of other subset of backgrounds within that. If you're just trying to exclude European like descent, got these other countries that are getting represented, and obviously like Native Americans, things like that. So it is like a big spectrum, and some people within those that spectrum don't really want to be identified as somebody of color for whatever reason, whether it's because they that culture and their background is. I know some cultures where potentially if you had darker complexion, that was kind of a sign that you were somebody that worked in the field, or you were somebody that didn't really you weren't of a higher class, that you weren't in somebody that's inside of a house doing business deals or what have you, or doing some things that are more of indoor, writing proposals and things like that, whatever you want to describe. But somebody with a darker complexion was out in the fields and doing work, picking rice, picking cotton, picking whatever. So it's like it's a term that I think, maybe something that we can consider in the future as far as, modifying within our within our forum here, just to maybe be more inclusive of other groups that don't really consider themselves as colored per se, but maybe maybe there's something else that we can use to describe them. But I think generally speaking, what we're going after is just people that are, we're mostly focusing in the United States, but people that are not getting represented within their group or within IT, whether it's, African American, whether it's like, Native American, even like, I would say that at least with some of the companies I've been a part of, I think maybe the Asian community is a little bit more represented than Black, Latino. So I think those groups of people that are a little bit underserved is what we're kind of trying to help inspire as well with our forum here, and whether we describe them as people of color or minorities or um, you know um, underrepresented groups, whatever you want to describe them as. I think it's just important that we have some sort of voice box to try to help push them along, and hopefully that we don't offend anybody with using that term, and hopefully we can come to like some sort of agreement where we can make sure that everybody feels comfortable with whatever we use as a description to for these groups, make sure that they
Right.
don't have any issues with it. But that's kind of my view, and I think
Right.
it's obviously I'm not Latin. I'm like you said, I'm Black. I haven't grown up in those cultures. I know that is actually a thing that I think I read something earlier, like through a Wikipedia article, that Cuban Americans, actually 85% of them identify themselves as white. So I think it's something within the Latin community that they don't even, don't view themselves. And I think I've even seen that on like different, uh, um, like census, or like things where you mark off like your background. It'll actually say like white Hispanic, or like um, some
Yeah,
other options
Latino
where it actually has like
non-white
white
and
next to like
stuff like that.
Hispanic, and
Yeah,
it is a thing. Yeah, right. Latino non-white, something to that effect. I think that is like a thing within the Latin community where they don't, maybe identify as somebody of color, and they, may want to say that they are white. I mean, I guess in Spanish, if you really think about it, I mean, I guess they're from Spain, or like so maybe that's considered like a European, European descent. So they are kind of, I guess, white, if you want to label it like that, if you're from a European country. So it's, I guess it's, and I guess we can go down a big old tangent about that, but it's, I guess it is what it is, and maybe we just have to be
maybe
conscious of that and try to make sure
maybe
we're
they just don't want the
Right.
taking
vitriol
care
that
of
comes with
everybody.
it either, right? So it's one of those things where, you call yourself a person of color. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have that far side that's going to be like, oh, here we go again, right? And the third and social justice warriors, and
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, no, it's not. Like this is what everyone should
Mm-hmm.
have. Why should it be different for people of color, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess like it's still a topic to be further discussed. Uh, but I think our audience knows that we're not trying to exclude anyone. I like what you said. Like it's not a show where basically if you're white, don't listen to our show. That's not what we're trying to say at all. We're just trying to highlight and put a spotlight on those people who are, like Levon said, underrepresented. Um, so we're not trying to exclude anyone. However, when it comes to the articles, the news, and the guests and what have you, we're trying to shine a spotlight on those 7%ers, 11%ers, 14%ers, um, those groups that are not the 68% that has most of the media coverage. So I do like both of your perspectives on it, um, and I would like to assimilate that. However, also, I guess I don't want to do a whitewashing to other people of color in not making them feel like they're a specific person. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I guess I can kind of see that as well. So there's that fine line there, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not trying to lump you into a group you don't want to be lumped into, but you probably wouldn't be listening to the show anyway.
Mhm.
You would have turned us off 30 minutes ago.
Right.
So, there's a little bit of a tightrope there. But what would be awesome is if people gave us their feedback.
Hmm.
If you are still listening and you don't quite agree with the perspective, or if you have a different um, point of view you like to get across, then definitely hit us up, send us an email, um, and the email address is within the podcast link, or send us a voicemail, which is also the podcast link, so we can actually hear your voice and be able to respond to you. So I think those are both really good perspectives as well. And then it comes to the third point. So the third point I wanted to get in across, which is I guess won't be as robust of a topic, is why we're going to keep proceeding, why we're going to keep moving ahead, even if the perspective or the demographic is still being sought after. Like, even though we're, our focus may not be a laser beam right now, and it's not misaligned, but it's capturing people who necessarily don't want to be represented or don't want to be in the show. I think we should just keep pressing forward, because people's feedback will let us know where we're hitting the mark and where we're not hitting the mark. I could have spent another year working on my 30-second pitch, you know what I mean, for the show. But I think what we have going currently definitely is a platform that is not necessarily being presented. There are other groups, as Shannon shared a CIA article with me. You have the American Indian Science Engineering Society, you have the Black Data Processing Associates, you have Black and Brown Founders, uh, Black Girls Code, Blacks in Technology, or BIT, which I'm a member of in Florida, Code 2040, Digital Undivided, National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering, National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. The list goes on from there. So there are groups, if you feel as though you are being underrepresented, that you may want to join. We hope to be able to capture a lot of those people. Like, I would like to speak to people from those groups. I like to have interviews with those type of people. I like to, one day interview the Florida Black and IT chapter head, or the Blurs group CEO, or there's a doctor I want to talk to, Dr. Suggs, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She's the a cybersecurity expert. I definitely want her on the show one day, but I don't quite have the clout yet. So got to build up to
Right.
that, right? But I think we should just keep pressing on. You know what I mean? Like, I think to sit there and then try to tighten the brand before you launch would have just been us spinning our wheels and continuously thinking of a target that may be moving.
Yeah.
I'd rather get on the path and start to figure out what people need, what those wants are, and then to start getting people on the show to basically explain or give ideas to people who want to get into IT, or people who feel as though they're stuck at a certain level and they want to get to the other side of the firewall, or
Yeah, for sure.
that glass ceiling, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a work in progress. I mean, I think it's great that, like you said, that we need to just get it started and get the ball rolling, and we can kind of see where the cards are lay, and just make the changes and modifications along the way to make sure that we're covering topics and covering subjects that we need to, and make sure people feel like that they're getting something out of it. I think that's the most important thing, that we or make sure that we're providing kind of providing a service that people hopefully will make an impact, and help people along that that have interest in IT, that want to see people of color be successful, or Black people, or Native Americans, Latin Americans be successful in their careers. And I think going from here, it's just a matter of making sure that we uh, listen to the feedback, and hopefully as we start building our audience, we can gather some of that feedback and make it even better than what it is now.
Yeah, definitely. So there is no good segue between topic 1 and topic 2.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, listeners. Please remember that you can support this podcast directly by becoming members of the show's Patreon. Here, you'll be able to listen to the podcast 7 days early, completely ad-free. However, in these trying times, we understand that you may not be able to become a Patreon just yet. In that case, please listen to the show once it's available on free feeds, leave us constructive feedback, and share with your blurred friends and family. Thank you.
Well, I can lead into it. There's no problem. I was going to say, I was going to start off with, just like you were kind of leading towards, it's, we were just talking about some very important, very important topic as far as just how we're running the show and how, how people feel and get represented in the United States. But leading into the next topics, be a little bit more just focused on some news within the industry, and which can kind of discuss a little bit about a surveillance phone surveillance tool. So essentially, we gathered this article. It's from The Intercept, theintercept.com, and an article by Sam Richards. And it basically just an article describing a powerful mobile phone surveillance tool that operates in obscurity across the country. So it's essentially the company's called CellHawk, and they developed a tool that is used by law enforcement, by FBI and other organizations, any kind of law enforcement organization, private investigators, to convert information collected by cell phone providers into like maps of people's locations, movements, and relationships. So essentially, it can track, or it receives like the input of data from these investigators, and it can kind of parse the data and then throw it out into a nice map or diagram or plots of data that can easily be digested by the organization. So essentially, it's a tool, analytical tool that these organizations are using to parse our data. And I think obviously this is becoming more and more concerning for some people in general with AI and just analytics, just being able to make it easier for people to, essentially like digest or to understand maybe personal information or private information from individuals. Obviously, I think in this case, the law enforcement, they have to have to have a what's the word? A warrant for the data. Yeah, a warrant for the data to be able to like retrieve it. But I guess the fact that these tools are available that kind of help them make their jobs easier, and then they can just process the data pretty quick. It also has, there's concerns of people using the tool for, for malicious purposes if they have access to that resource. There's been stories out there where maybe law enforcement has gathered access to somebody's data maybe without without a full warrant or things of that nature. But there's tools out there that make it kind of easier for them to parse through it and get the information that they need quickly and maybe fly a little bit underneath the radar. But with this story, I just want to kind of bring it up to you guys and just kind of get your perspective, and if you guys had any input on these kind of tools and this kind of a process.
So what you were saying, right? So like the warrants thing is kind of what comes into play here. So and according to the article from The Intercept, right, that you were referencing, they have a quote in here, or they have a statement in here. Police use CellHawk to process data sets they routinely receive from cell carriers like AT&T and Verizon, typically in vast spreadsheets and often without a warrant. So what you were talking about is it's a parser for information that they already have, right? Like they're getting this information freely. I don't know how often. It may be once a week, whatever. The information is already there for them.
Right.
It's just a matter of parsing through it, right? So this is different from, I know it was a couple weeks ago. I don't think it was last week. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I bought about the Stingrays, right? So Stingrays are devices that impersonate a cell tower that you get people to connect to, right? And then you start getting all their information because, as it shows in this article, that information is already stored by the telecommunications companies, right? Your AT&Ts, your Verizons, your T-Mobiles, your well, I guess I said Sprint's no longer one of the big four, right? They've merged, but yeah. So the information is already made available, and it's a matter of parsing through it. So it's one of those things where it's not like the police are going to come to you and be like, "Hey, give me your phone." They don't have to do that anymore, right? But we don't need a warrant to come and get your phone. The information is being made available to us, and if we want to do something nefarious, we can. As with anything, right? As with anyone. Right, it could be. It goes along the lines of what we're talking about with security as well, right? People are your biggest vulnerability, right? Your insider threats. So if you have a rogue law enforcement officer of some type, again, I'm not saying that is the case, but if you have one that just wants to go through and spy on his ex-girlfriend for whatever reason, right? Like he knows, you know what I'm saying? Like he knows where she's at, what tower she's connected to, and he just wants to look and see what she's up to, see who she's dating or who she's talking to, find out where she's been from her GPS coordinates. I mean, you just look at all the stuff. Like we live by our phones nowadays, right? Like we do everything through our phone. I don't like how many landlines are really out there anymore,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like we're
That's
making
true.
it harder for the police to get this information anyway, right? Or law enforcement to get this information anyway. It's readily available to them because of how we've chosen to live our lives. Now, again, you got people that there's a scale there, right? It's one of those things where it's like, okay, do we want them to have this so they can find the criminals and everything can happen or everything can be stopped before it happens? You know what I mean? If they see, if they find bodies in a field somewhere, like, okay, well, there's a cell tower out here. Let's see what numbers have been connecting to this, right? Like it's one of those things where, okay, you caught the bad guys, right? But it's a little bit different when it's gone too far a different way, right? This is one of those things where people are like, I love my security, right? I'm one of those people. I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, right? So I don't care. Look through it all you want. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things where it's like, you guys ever seen Judge Dredd? Movie Judge Dredd, Stallone. And one of your favorites. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Remember how they created the picture of him as the baby? They had the other guy. I can't remember his name. It wasn't Dredd. It was his clone brother or whatever it was. They created that picture. Like that picture was not a real picture. So are we going to get into a position where all of a sudden information is going to start getting created? It's going to be manipulated. You know what I mean? It's going to be deep fake sale records. You know what I mean? Like that's what people may be worried about is going to go. Like you don't know how far down the line it can go. So at what point do you want to stop it?
All I can think about right now is he's like, I am the law.
I am the law.
I obviously don't want that, right? But so my concern is, reading the article, there's a piece missing. I just don't understand. Like, so I get that they subpoena phone carriers for data, but when they get it, are they getting it on specific people, or when they say a dump, are they saying everything that hit that tower? Like, so my thing is, if you a warrant requires reasonable suspicion or something of that. I'm not a lawyer, but something to that effect. So we believe that a crime was committed, and we believe that this person may have committed, or he may have connected to this tower, so on and so forth. I get that, but it seems as though they're getting a lot more information for private citizens that are not involved in the subpoena. And that's a lot of information. I'm not sure how that works. And that's the part I don't like. Like, I don't want you to pull my records just because you're pulling his records. Like, I want you to catch the criminal, but I don't want you to be able to, I don't know, get me for a speeding ticket or something to that effect. I don't even know if they can even parse data to that effect, right? But I'm just saying, like, I don't want to be caught up in a misdemeanor for you trying to find this capital, murder suspect. Like, I don't think the two should be intertwined. However, they may not be. My other concern would be, it's not the clarity in which they can get the information, but it's I don't know. Like when I read the article, they said they were able to use your
GPS?
text, your call, and your they didn't call it Lyft information, but basically, like, if you use an application to get rideshare information. So that blew me, because so how is rideshare information I guess, carried? Like, is it part of my cell phone call? Is it part of the data that of once I use the tower, or
So
are the rideshare companies sharing that information for
didn't
some
we
other
already
legal
get permission for
aspect?
that though?
So
So like when you
there's so
start
much
adding all
data
these apps onto your
implication
phone,
there
it
that
asks for all
needs to
those
be looked
permissions,
into.
right? Like that's probably exactly where they're getting it from. Like how many of us actually look through when it says we need permission to these
Yes,
things? We look and see its contacts. It's that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying though, is we probably
I
willingly
know.
gave
I
it
don't, I
up.
don't have enough time in my
That's the
day.
thing.
But it's pretty crazy how they can plot all this stuff out. Like again, it's pretty cool. Like I know a little bit of how cell phone towers work, like how they can kind of figure out you're heading towards this location to this tower. So I'll start to bleed over to the other tower. So you're able to transceive on two towers at once. That's how cops are able to say, well, this person was in this area because he was connected to these two towers or these three towers or what have you. Um, so I always found that fascinating. But when you look at the GUI that pops up for the information that they're tracking, there's a lot of information,
And they parse it
um,
quickly too.
and
They
that part
parse it
makes
quickly.
me, yeah. What would take a detective probably a week or more to try to figure out, they're able to do in
Yeah,
minutes.
I think that's the, maybe from a technical aspect, I think it's very interesting. I think it's kind of cool in that respect that it's, people are able to automate these kind of processes, and I think in general, IT is all about automation and trying to make things like smoother and quicker, um, making things easier for people to do without having to, like physically like print out some paperwork and like look through some logs and, you know, highlight, a particular call record that looks like it's the one that you're looking for. I mean, doing things like that is it's kind of like almost like ancient times. And if you kind of think about it nowadays, people don't really uh, do a lot of. Well, I think most people aren't working with paper daily. They're mostly working with like with their computers and electronic equipment. But obviously that part is kind of cool. But obviously, it's the other side of it where now they have access. They have quick access to this data and if certain pieces of data aren't requiring warrants or they're not getting warrants for certain things, and you can just like grab whatever you like and quickly parse through it. Maybe over a lunch break, you just grab somebody's phone records and parse through it and get whatever you need. Um, and if it's for some malicious, somebody that has bad intentions that trying to find out what their ex-wife has been doing or what have you, or ex-husband, ex-husband, whatever, you got to be it's a little concerning in that respect, and how easily the data can be gathered. And but I guess is that they have to just these organizations and groups have to put I don't know security measures in place to make sure that people aren't doing bad things with the data, make sure that they're monitored and the access to the equipment is kind of you know uh, is is restricted to the people that need to have access to it, and it's like documented as far as who logs in at what time and what records they're looking at, so that people can easily retrieve it, and it can so those people as well can't just delete their hide their any trace of them connecting to the service and finding the data that they need. And I think that's probably the best way to kind of uh, ensure that that's not happening. Um, in the same respect, just the public information that somebody just trying to find some general, I don't know, some random person out the blue, like, somebody cut me off in the intersection. Now let me try to find them in this database and see where they've been. Um,
So Brian,
that may be a little bit more concerning.
I know you brought up offline, right? Like, at what
Right.
point does this
So
become
there's
like
some.
Minority
Oh, go ahead.
Report,
I'm sorry.
right? Like, are we really stopping crimes before they happen? You know what I mean? Like, we want to get
Hmm.
like I like the movie, but again, the premise of it is, ooh, that is a little sticky, right?
Yeah, there are some implications of the future for that. There are some agencies looking into precognition where they can use AI as well as analysts to determine future crime. So perhaps you circle that bank several times. Oddly enough, maybe you want to rob that bank type situation. Like I don't know if that'll ever happen, but you can even I don't know, man. I I'm of two minds about it. Like I love the fact that um, there was an arsonist who during the riots he started a fire in like a police precinct or something like that. Like he was not there to demonstrate for Black Lives. He was there to create anarchy, right?
Hmm.
So in the stairwell of the police precinct, um, another rioter caught film of the person. They're able to pinpoint like this. These two people were in this stairwell at this time when the fire erupted at this time, and they're able to trace this guy, get a picture of him off somebody else's cell phone because of social media, and then find him when he returned back to his home state, which is awesome. You caught an arsonist who was not there to support the movement. Got it. But like I'm a person who's big into tech. I don't care if you're tracking me and following me. I want the convenience. But what about the person who does not want those conveniences? He or she is still being captured by my data.
Hmm.
Like if you want to stay off the grid, but you're around people with mobile devices, you're still
Hmm.
in the grid. Like you can't
Right.
escape it. Like it's kind of like the whole secondhand smoke. Like, oh, you're smoking, that only affects you, but no, it affects the
Hmm.
person next to you too. It's kind of like our technology is bleeding
Oh
on to
yeah.
other people,
Even like cameras.
and there's going to be
Yeah.
ramifications, especially because the internet is written in ink, right? Like you do something dumb when you're
So
younger,
true.
and then you become a model citizen when you're older. We have receipts for decades now. Like you're in a database somewhere doing something wrong. Everyone is going to have a criminal
They
misdemeanor
may
type
not have had
background. You know
cell
what I mean?
phones
Like
back in
just
the '80s,
the
but
stuff you
they
do when
got
you're
you
younger
in
and dumb will come back to
blackface at
haunt you.
college, right? Like that's how it goes.
Right. That is very true. Yeah. That stuff resurfaces and now it's even more detailed
Hmm.
than ever. So I don't know what the implications are. And then I worry for my kids' generation because I don't care.
Hmm.
I want the convenience. I would love for my toaster to know I like my toast to be charred a certain way at a certain time.
Right.
Like the other day, like I've been over here for a couple months now. My phone, when I woke up, gave me my route to work. I'm like, yo, how do you even know? Like, you know, I leave at this time and I go here. And I'm like, that is so cool, inconvenient, because you reminded me I need to go to work. But at the same
Remember
time,
that. Remember that
you know,
when you've littered and you've
Right.
thrown
Right.
your
As long as
Pepsi can over a bush or something
you're
like that. You
stalking
know what I
me.
mean? They got you for littering because you walk this way to work every day. You know.
Yeah, it's 1984. We live in Orwellian times. Like, it's only a matter of time.
right.
Like my TLC is watching me. So I mean, like we are there. We live in those times
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. And I just I think it's interesting. Like you brought up, and I didn't really thought about it as much until you said it that everybody's data is out there, and I think tools are getting a lot smarter, a lot more readily available that people can use just to. Oh, I want to find a picture of you in high school when you were, you're doing something bad, or when you posted this one thing on Twitter back in, I don't know, back when Twitter first came out. I can't remember I don't know when Twitter first started, but you're just trying to find some some old information about somebody that's been posted on the internet. And a lot of these tools nowadays can do that for you. And even just regular search engine can find a lot of data about somebody. But if you got tools specific that analyze data over the web and has access to, I don't know, some dark web information, what have you, you can find a lot about people. And it's that could be kind of scary, you know. And even if you're trying to
Yeah.
uh, stay off the I forgot what the word is, but just you're trying to off the grid, yeah. So you're trying to stay off the grid. Um, you're kind of forced back in the grid, even if you're a person that doesn't use cell phone. You just even walking the streets and camera catches you walking down the street and sees you at this particular time, and have the facial recognition that can see that you are the person that walked down the street, and I don't know, see your height, your weight, and you know if you had a
Yeah. The
right
gait of your
gait of your
walk,
walk and all this kind of
like
stuff.
you know,
Yeah, it's stuff that
yeah,
you got to be aware of, and I understand people can be very concerned about it, and yeah, who knows what
yeah.
the future.
You have to look at some Providence, is it Providence in China or prefecture? I don't think prefecture is Japan. I think Providence is
I think
in
that's
China.
right.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but they have some of their cities where they're testing out. I forget what they call it, but it's something akin to good citizen points. So your phone is your bank card. Your phone is your everything. It's your pass to the city, right? And it tracks you at all times. So When you leave for the morning to go to work, it's tracking the data, how long it takes you to get to work, and all that good stuff, right? It lets you onto the train because it's your passport or your debit card to charge you for the token. But then it's also how you purchase your goods and services. So they're tracking what you're purchasing, how you're eating. So if you're a person with hypertension and you go and buy products that have lots of sodium in it, your reputation is lowered because you're not being a good citizen because you're costing citizens to have to pay for your health care and take care of you later on, and so on and so forth. I think it is awesome because it's happening to somebody else. I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want citizen points. I want to be able to consume and do as I want. I think the applications are cool for a movie, but in real life, it's terrifying. Where you could not have the ability to go to certain places or to be extended certain services. Let's say you try to Uber eat something that's not good for you. The nation state could be like, no, you can't have that. You can have this though. Like, yeah, I'll send you some tofu. You want a midnight snack? You can't have none of this
You,
this
you know,
delicious ramen. You know what I mean? Like it's just
I got
stuff
to be
like
honest
that.
with you.
Like
I'm surprised we're not farther along
there's too much technology
than
in
that. So,
society.
so I'll tell you like this. When I was stationed in South Korea. And now, we have the, what is it, like the Samsung Pay, Google Pay. Just put your phone up to something and pay for it, right? Like been very prevalent in the last 5 to 7 years or so. I would say probably in the States. I was seeing this
Right.
in South Korea back in 2009, 2010. Like people just taking their phones, going up to like vending machines and whatnot and paying for stuff. And I was like, that is cool. And what I started to notice was that when you start getting into, those Asian countries and whatnot, they want to do things to prove they can do them, right? To prove that it can be done. It's not necessarily for profit or anything of those lines. They're not in it. It doesn't seem like they're in it to make a buck, as all businesses are in it to make a buck, right? But that was one of those things where I'm sure back 10 years ago, they were losing money on that, right? But they were like, "This is something we can do." So, like, to say that you're seeing that happening now, I'm like, well, I remember this
Right.
from 10
Right.
years ago. I'm surprised we're not way past. I'm surprised the Minority Report stuff, like with the board, is not like readily available out there in those Asian countries. Because it was a real technology when Minority Report came out, mind you, right? Like the big screen and whatnot he would do with his fingers. I think it was at MIT at the time was where they got it from. So like I'm surprised it's just not readily
Yeah.
available over there somewhere, and that they're just not so much farther ahead.
So and this is a side tangent. I had to write a paper about the chip when the chip first started to hit the states. I can't remember what it's called. The chip in your credit card, EMV or EVM or something like that. It's based on Visa, Mastercard, and there's another big card carrier over in Europe. Um, so the big thing is like 50% of all credit card fraud was due to skimmers and imprints of credit card numbers. So just having your number and the strip, the magnetic strip on the card, are what criminals use to steal your data and then make purchases on your behalf, right? Just those two simple things. So they're like, listen, we have to do something because we're losing so much money. So they created the chip and they removed the numbers off of the card and they removed the magnetic strip. You just had the chip and your pen. That was it. They tried to push that here in the states, and it did not work originally. That's why we're just now starting to see it really come to head. It took almost I think it was a decade, only because over
The
there,
people.
uh,
Yeah.
socialism mindset is we're doing this for the people, right? Even though it's really helping out the credit card company because they're losing the money, but it's the mindset is uh, if we do this for the people will support it, and then by us not bleeding, we won't have to charge them more money, so on and so forth, right? Greater good. You come to the states with that craziness, you're like, listen, are you paying for it? And you going to replace all the readers in our establishment? They're like, no, you need to do that for your people. They're like, our people are fine. Like, unless you're paying for it, we're not upgrading
Right.
these systems. And then you had the Target breach, you had the TG
Wawa
Maxx
talked
breach, you
about.
had There was it was a Target twice? I can't remember, but there was a third breach. It was wild. Yeah, they were like, listen, take them damn numbers off them cards. We can't afford this anymore. Like people are going to stop accepting our credit report giveaways because they already have them several times over. We need to do something. So then they started to actually fund the movement to make them disappear. So I have a couple cards now that don't have numbers on them. It's not my own doing. I didn't request a card.
EM,
Like they were like, "There's a card in the mail. Your other card's gonna stop working." Type situation. So
no, I
I
definitely
think I
get that.
think we get it
EMV is the
slow
chip card.
because
EuroPay, MasterCard, Visa.
capitalism.
There you go.
That's my opinion. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they were the big three. They were like, no, we need to do something because it was like 52% of all fraud, of all credit card fraud was due to those
So
factors. And
here's
they're like, pull that off the card immediately. When it
exactly
got to
right. So like,
America,
think
and they
about
were
it
like,
now. Like, if
I
you have
don't know
to enter
about that.
credit card information, how do you do that if you don't have the
I don't know how
numbers,
you gonna
right?
read
You
them
don't have the
cards.
CVV code. You don't have an expiration. Like everything we have is set up to that. Give me those 16 numbers. Give me the expiration date, the CVV code, and like like online ordering right now, especially this past year, has just exploded,
Right.
right? So how many people have their credit cards, stored somewhere, whether it be for a food app or Amazon or whatever, something along those lines. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think what they're trying to do now is they're trying to convert it all to your phone being your credit card and what have you. But um, still there's still a bunch of hoops you need to jump through to completely remove the numbers. Like so those cards that don't have that, and I think it's and what's the word, embroidered, um, imprinted numbers on the top. They no longer have those. They still have the numbers, but they're on the back now, where the magnetic strip would be. They're just printed out numbers. So I still have numbers, but they're no longer raised impressions
oh,
on the card, so they can't be easily copied. And then there's no magnetic strip at all, so it can't be skimmed. So it's literally your card going into the reader, and it's the reader reading the chip. So it makes it harder for skimmers to be used because there's no magnetic strip um, to be had. I'm sure there's already something out there that's defeating these measures, but in the grand scheme of things, it was to make you a little bit safer. Um, and I think in your phone, it's associated with a token, so that way you don't. I can't remember. It's something about they randomize the number due to the token, and the token is safe because of multi-factor authentication, and so on and so forth. Um, I need to look into it because I think that'd be interesting to talk about on the show. But they're trying, but
Hmm.
criminals are gonna be criminals.
Absolutely.
gotcha.
But oh, quick correction: April Christina Curley. She was the Black diversity recruiter for Google. There is an Abigail that was fired by Google, but it's totally unrelated. If you Google Abigail fired by Google, it pops up. I don't know who that lady is. It may have been something that bled over that shouldn't
Right.
be on the internet.
Right.
It's like the HR department.
Hey, that's funny.
Um, but yeah, but I think that wraps it for the first two topics. So
So here's the thing.
I
Before we
would
even
like
get into
to
this, right?
ask
I did
Levon
study
what we've been
this week.
playing, but
Okay,
I'm
so
gonna
I just
start
want to
with
put that out there, right?
Shannon.
No,
What have you been
I
playing?
did. I got some study time. Look, I even sent proof. I sent visual proof.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, I did start doing it this week. So I was actually on leave this week, so I had a lot more time. I wasn't going into work. I wasn't logging into work, so I got the study time in. But I started playing Spider-Man Miles Morales. I know you had mentioned it last week too, Levon, and man, I like the game. You know what I mean? I like the game. Now I had the previous Spider-Man, right, and that was a good
Hmm.
one as well. And the mechanics are almost the same. Like there's some small differences and whatnot, but that's my Spider-Man Miles Morales is pretty good. I still
Hmm.
haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse or whatever it is. I've oh, yeah, that's what I keep being told is I got to see that. Yeah,
Oh, you
because
got to
even
see
one
that.
one of the
Oh,
suits
it's
in,
good.
in the Miles Morales one is like
Yeah,
the
you got to
animated
see that
suit
one.
from
Yeah,
the from
it's pretty
the
good.
movie. I'm like, oh, that's
It's
weird.
yeah. It's my critique of it is it's pretty clever. Like you watch the movie, you're like, oh, okay, it's pretty You already know the story, but just the way that they put it together and their emphasis on Miles, you're like, oh, okay, that's really clever. I like where they're going with
Right.
this.
I agree with you.
So, but I haven't
Yeah,
played the game
yeah.
yet, though.
No, you definitely got to check out Into the Spider-Verse. It's definitely one of my I don't know. I'd say it's one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years. I forgot if they came out in 2019
Yeah.
or 2020. I think it's 2019, right, or something like that. Maybe even before that. Okay,
Was it
18 might have
Yeah,
been.
I think it
Dang,
was like
a couple
18,
years.
maybe.
Yeah, but it's I really like that movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Some of it's a little crazy, but overall, I think they did a great job with the movie, and it's um, I think it's worth taking a little time out. I think it's on.
Is it Disney Plus?
It might be on HBO
Or
still.
no?
I'm sorry, HBO, but Netflix.
Is it
Netflix still.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
No, I think it's still on Netflix.
Yeah, because
Like, they had it
Marvel
on Netflix
Studios and
forever.
some
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
so
Sony
they made
joint,
the deal,
so-
right?
Right,
Like Spider-Man
right.
had come into Marvel for a couple of the
Yeah.
movies, but it was like was it a cost sharing thing or something like that? Or gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I think if he's by himself, it's Sony money. If he's with the Avengers,
Right.
it's MCU money. Yeah, I think that's the split. But I thought it was pretty good. I would say it's probably because Spider-Man's my favorite superhero. Batman's real close though, but Spider-Man takes it. Obviously, I'm crossing universes with that comment. But
Really?
I would say it's in my top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 of Spider-Man flicks, because I mean, there's
So
right
You had the
now.
3 with Tobey.
Yeah,
You
there's
had
got
the
to be
2
at
that were the
least
amazing. You
over
had 2
10 Spider-Man
with
movies, right?
Tom Holland,
With
3, 4,
the
5, 6,
three
7.
different
And then if you
trilogies.
account for the Avengers movies, I don't know if you will or not, but
Yeah.
like he was in some of those too. So
Yeah. So I would say because I really did enjoy the what was my man's first name? That was Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. I enjoyed the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Right.
The second one was okay. Third one was trash, right? The Amazing Ones didn't really do it for me. I didn't really like that
wow.
guy too much. But I would say in that case, I will put it top 3.
Oh, dang.
Because I love the new Spider-Man. I love the new Spider-Man and Into Spider-Verse. It really hit. A lot
what's
of
crazy is the game
nostalgia
soundtrack is
factors.
pretty
Like,
good
even
too.
the
Like
soundtrack is
Yeah.
incredible.
yeah, like Miles
Yeah.
is.
So
I don't know
I'll
if
put
he
it up
makes
there.
music or something. I don't know, but like some of the music you hear
Is it?
in the game is pretty good too. I was like, oh man, that's kind of more of a hip hop flavor to it. You know what I mean? So I guess you got to kind of like that, maybe. I don't know, but I think he mixes music or something like that. There's a line where he mentions it to his mom. I'm not trying to give it away, but no, it's a good game. I haven't finished it yet. I've only had it for a few days, but no, it's pretty good. That is true. I'm still on PS4, and
It's
like
gonna get spoiled
my
for me, 'cause
PS4
I'm gonna wait
sometimes
till
sounds
I
like
get
I don't know what it
PS5.
is.
Oh, you're trying to
Sometimes it sounds
get
like a jet engine
Yeah.
taking off. I don't know what's going on. I don't. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if they did an iPhone on me and they started throttling it, and maybe it's not going
Yeah.
to work as well.
Yeah, it's mine at
iPhone, I
home.
don't know, but
No, man, it's trying to cool itself down. It's like, what are you doing? Like the same thing. The Last of Us. So you play The Last of Us 2 on it, or because I'm playing The Last of Us 2 currently on a coworker's PS4 Pro, and it doesn't sound that bad. But Final Fantasy 7 Remake
Wow.
on mine at home, I had to put it behind the TV because it was drowning out the center channel. That's how loud it
Dang.
was.
That's
Make it
crazy.
even worse. Yeah,
I was like, I gotta muffle you, which is constricting air, so
Right.
it's killing it even quicker.
Right.
I am the law.
Yeah, it spins up even higher. It's like, can you hear me now? It's behind your TV, like, yeah. I am the law. Listen to me.
I'm gonna watch that. Like now that you brought it up, I'm gonna watch it. Is
Yeah,
that
Demolition Man
Demolition
is
Man?
one of my favorites back in the day too. But you have something to do.
I never
You have
figured it
someone to
out.
kill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
TV
3
show.
seashells. Still trying to. No one has. No one's figured that out yet.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
But what
Yeah,
about
so I
you,
just
Devon? What are you
actually just
playing?
finished Last of Us 2 just the maybe 3 days ago, and man, that was a great game. They did a great job on. Let me tell you how it ends. All right, so this is what happens at the end.
Oh, don't do it.
No, of course not. No spoilers. But no, they just did a great job. I think the person that directs it, I forgot his name, but I looked him up afterwards. And I was just like,
Neil
yeah,
Druckmann.
he does a great job with the story, and he's the same person behind like the Uncharted games, and all those games have been, blockbusters as well. And this one's no different. Obviously, the first Last of Us was great. The second one is just as good, if not better. Um, and kind of the twists and turns with the story. Just I think it's really good, and obviously the action and all the dealing with the zombies and things like that, and dealing with the people that the different sects or different groups that come after you throughout the game is pretty intense.
Right.
But yeah, I've been really enjoying that. I finished that up, and I played it. Actually, I hopped between the PS4 and the PlayStation 5 because depending on which room I was in.
So wait a minute,
But
hold on. We're not gonna go past it. So you telling
played
me you
that, and then
got
I've been
them in
playing a little
different
bit
rooms
of
even?
Destiny on.
Like you tell you're not gonna skip over. Yeah, like in the West Wing is
Well, yeah. So
He was like, when I'm in the
Chateau,
chateau,
I
I
could
play on the
not let that
the
PS5.
slide.
The West Wing. No, I have one. Has the old PS4 is in the bedroom. It's a smaller TV, but I put the
All right,
PS5
I'm
on
sorry.
the
Go
big
ahead,
screen
man.
to
I'm
try
sorry.
to get the full experience. So I had to switch it up. So yeah, no, that's all good. No, I don't have a. Unfortunately, I don't have a West Wing. I don't have a butler that that serves me hors d'oeuvres when I get a little famished from gaming too long. But yeah.
Come on,
But
get
so no, I
famished.
just hop between the two consoles, and obviously, like you mentioned before, PS4 just like it definitely struggles a little bit. Definitely spins up. You can hear it, hear the fans kicking off, but PS5 is pretty smooth. I haven't really heard much. I hear noise here now and then. Mostly, I think when the drive is actually spinning up, like the disc itself. But um, besides that, it seems pretty quiet. And I think the Xbox is the same way. It's like really quiet. I think it might be one of the quietest consoles I've ever had. But yeah,
Oh wow, because the one, what was it, Xbox One? Yeah, Xbox One, last generation.
yeah,
It was pretty quiet. So if it's just as quiet, then
yeah.
I'm
I think
impressed.
overall, I mean, not to like talk about too much, but I think they did a great job designing the Xbox. Just the actual, like when you actually look at the architect and like the innards, how they were able to kind of like streamline it or kind of like consolidate it into that box, as opposed to PS5 is kind of it's big. It's no doubt about it. It's bigger than like the PS3, which was huge in itself. Uh, but it's a
Wow.
monster. So it's I think it's pretty impressive that Microsoft was able to kind of design Xbox how it is. But obviously, much respect to PlayStation because it's a fun console. It's right up there. They pretty much have very similar specs, the two consoles. Um, and I'm definitely gonna be hopping in between both of them playing. I still got to finish off a Final Fantasy VII remake as well, that you mentioned it. Um,
Oh man, like, yeah, when
yeah,
you get done with
yeah,
that, we
I
gotta
need to
talk
hop
about
back
it.
into that one. Oh, let me say this real quick
Yeah.
because I playing like three consoles the last week. I was playing Switch. I was playing the Batwa, as we call it, Breath of the Wild.
I, I,
Um,
I, I thought you were speaking
we
some type
call
of
it
African
Batwa.
language or
Yeah,
something like that.
that's how
That's
we
what we
call it,
call it. What?
Batwa.
I don't know what that is. I'm not.
BOTW, Batwa. A friend of mine said that to me one time. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, I'm gonna start calling it that. I'm gonna call it Batwa. But it's Breath of the Wild, Zelda. We've been
That is
playing that,
hilarious.
and we're just finished off one of the second Divine Beast. So we're making our progress. We'll hopefully finish it before the next week. But playing that quite a bit actually, more
Okay,
than everything else in the last couple of days. But yeah,
gotcha. Yeah, it's an excellent game. Yeah, I was at the community center here, and the guy was playing it for the first time, and it's just hilarious how the first 30
yeah,
minutes is just you dying over and over again as
right,
you kind of figure out the
right,
mechanics. I'm over there chuckling. He's getting mad. I'm like, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just like,
yeah,
everything's going to kill you for like the
yeah,
first 30 minutes.
yeah.
It's
And
how
let me
you
tell you this:
learn.
I don't want to drag this out too long. I know we're kind of going a little late, but I just wanted to say that for me, like after having not played it for actually a couple of years, I actually stopped playing it and I'm just not getting back into it, but just trying to learn the controls again. And the thing with
Yeah.
Nintendo, they like to use the confirmation button is the far button. I think it's their the A button, but it's on the outside of the controller, like closest to like the right side of the controller.
Bottom.
I'm so used to the confirmation being like the X button, like you'd be on the PlayStation, or the I think it's like the A button is like it's like the bottom button. So I'm constantly like hitting the wrong button, trying to do things in the game and killing myself, or like instead of like swiping my sword or something, I'm like canceling out or something. Like I don't know, I'm like jumping or running instead of trying to swipe the sword. So I find myself doing that constantly. So I'm just trying to get back into that mindset that the confirmation button is on the far right hand side and not the bottom where I'm used to it being. But it's just one of those little nuances that I had to get myself out of that habit of hitting that confirmation button on the bottom. But yeah, that's my story, so I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Yeah, it is different. I haven't played it in so
Yeah.
long though. I can't even remember how to control anything. I've been doing the same thing. I've been playing my Switch. I've been playing
Mm.
a lot of Tetris 99, like um, competitive Tetris. I don't know if you know about 99, Shannon, but it's you
What?
versus 98 other people. You're all playing Tetris. As you clear lines, you're throwing
Hmm.
bricks at
Yeah,
other people. It's crazy.
I've seen that.
It's like Tetris
Yeah.
Battle Royale. I've come
Oh,
in
dang.
third once, but usually I'm like, yeah, I've never won it. It's
Yeah.
usually pretty brutal. And then because Mario just had his 35th anniversary, they have Mario 35, which is you playing against 34 other people playing the original Mario. And as you clear enemies, they go to other people's screens. So you're playing
Wow.
like World 1-1, and you have like mad turtles everywhere. And you're like,
Yeah.
what is happening? Why are there so many shells?
I
Dang.
don't think I'm. I don't
So
think I'm on that level,
I
right?
came in,
Like,
I came in nine once, and I was
Dang, that's
very
what's
impressed
up.
with myself.
Yeah, that's
I know. I know. Quick Tetris story. So I got it for like Xbox some years ago,
Man,
right? And I had
this
me and the wife would
competitive
sit down and
Mario out
play, and
here.
this was like the only game she would play with me, right? She was fairly good at Tetris, so I was letting her win, right? I was letting her win just so we could have the time together on the console and whatnot. And she starts talking trash, and I'm like, okay. I was like, enough's enough. So then I just start giving her the business, and we just play video games
Mm.
against each other. like I could. The point is, I could beat
Mm.
my wife. I don't know if I could beat 98 other people that do this like all the time. I ain't played Tetris in who knows how long, but yeah. But if they start talking trash, maybe it'll up my game. Maybe I'll have.
Right. Yeah.
Man,
So
well, yeah, you have a good podcast. Oh, I do, huh? Okay, the best
hell yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, I have that in my queue and my next Netflix queue. I need to hop on that one and check it out. I have so many shows and movies I'm trying to catch up on. I just have to make my way over to the Last Dance. Definitely want to check that one out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
it definitely grabbed my
It was
attention
like
because I
June.
was the same way. Like everybody talked about it a long time ago. I think it came out during the pandemic, right? Or during the beginning of the pandemic. But yeah, I just kept pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off, and then finally I watched one episode here, and then next thing I know, I watched all of them over 2 days. I was like, man, because I was a kid when this was happening. I was like somewhere between 9 and 11 throughout the course of the first series that they were killing it. And I was like, man, I didn't know about any of this, like all these inside stories about Mike
Yeah,
just destroying people. I was like, man, this is good.
man. Yeah, I gotta check that one out. That sounds like a good one for sure.
Yeah,
Do they have
definitely.
is Dennis Robin up in there somewhere?
Uh,
Yeah, I figured he'd be.
Oh yeah,
For
yeah, yeah.
sure.
He's in the second
Way
the second time when they were
Gotcha.
going for the
Yeah, 'cause I
second
know
three.
he was a character back in the day too.
about
Oh
the
yeah,
Last Dance. So
yeah.
they're
They
talking
they
about
show
the
him.
championship in '98,
Remember
but
when he
then
was a
they
wrestler
also
for a quick
flashbacking
second? That's in there.
other
Yeah.
times, right, throughout their history with the Bulls. So like you'll see, even though they're talking about that last year when they were dominant and it was Jordan's last year, like they'll go back to when he was getting knocked off in the playoffs by like Detroit and stuff like that. It's not just about the last year, even though it is about that last dance and the last year they had in their dynasty, in that dynasty.
Yeah, it's just like it shows where he got the energy and passion to finish it out, even though he was still the best player in the league, but he had a lot more competition for the second three-peat than he had for the first three-peat. So they give you that insight, like, oh yeah, the reason that he did this is because the trash talk that happened. You're like, dude, let's let it go. Like you've been holding a grudge for 3
Right.
years. But
He dribbled a
hey,
basket
you got
in the NBA
6
in 18
rings, so
years, and the shoes are still out
Right.
there on the shelf.
I guess
So
he did what he
awesome.
needed to.
oh,
He got the
Teddy just
wins.
helped him, I guess.
And they show how those deals were made and stuff like that too. Like he originally didn't even want to go with Nike. Now look at him. So it's all good stuff. Right now I'm vamping for time because my laptop cut off. I'm trying to make sure I get
Right.
all the sites right. So this is hopefully people are still sticking around. This is the longest episode ever, probably. Like even though I'm gonna have to trim the intro a little bit. We definitely got it in. But that's good though, because most podcasts are
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. I think the very first topic was obviously a very important one. I think we talked the longest about that, and I think we covered it pretty good. And of course, I'm sure it's going to come up later in other discussions.
Yeah, and that's a good segue though, because I definitely want people's feedback. So when it comes to providing this feedback, like I said, there's a whole link within the podcast itself. So when you go to your favorite podcast app, there's a link there where you can leave us a voicemail. But you can also go to www.theothersideofthefirewall.com, which will lead you to the Patreon, which is called The Other Side of the Firewall. It'll lead you to the Twitter @on_firewall. Our Facebook, which we have a page and a group now. So I started the group earlier this week. I think we currently have like 55 people or so in there. I kind of captured them low key. It was a different group I had for military certifications, but I noticed that the demographics were pretty similar, and the page has been dead for a couple of years. So I flipped it to being the Other Side of the Firewall group, and then those people just stayed, and a lot of them liked that I changed it. So I'm like, cool, yeah, trapped now. So invite your friends. During the course of this weekend, I plan to put some rules in a group and then start some conversations. Because a Facebook page and group are different. A Facebook page is for advertising, like, hey, episode, this will be 7, is now live. Please go listen to it. But a group actually allows them to discuss things. So maybe we'll actually get some questions we can read on air. Aside from that, we have the Instagram, which is the other side of the FW being Firewall. Then you have my Twitter, which is Rai Security Guy. And then
mine is just Levon Maynard. Just LEVONMAYNARD.
Yeah, so
you can hit me up on there, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely hit us up. Definitely hit up the man who's chiseled out of granite over there. Like he has lots of pictures showing off his muscles.
That's right.
and beat people up. I don't have that.
Right.
That's not what you're getting on my page. You're getting some plain old cybersecurity stuff. But yeah, definitely hit us up. Definitely leave us feedback. Thank you to the patrons for listening to the Patreon. This episode 7 will go on the Patreon tomorrow. My intent is to put it up there before people wake up on the East Coast. However, episode 6 will go live on free feeds. Should be midnight East Coast time. So definitely listen to that. We've been getting a lot of listens. Like there's an uptick, but no feedback yet. That's what I'm looking for. Leave us some feedback. Like even if you just want to put it in the podcast, like you want to give us 5 stars, obviously. But then let us know what we're doing wrong. That's fine.
Right.
However you want to leave that feedback. But yeah, we just want some feedback so we know we're going in the right direction.
That's what's up.
So anything else, guys?
Yeah, nothing here either.
Hey, listeners. Please remember that you can support this podcast directly by becoming members of the show's Patreon. Here, you'll be able to listen to the podcast 7 days early, completely ad-free. However, in these trying times, we understand that you may not be able to become a Patreon just yet. In that case, please listen to the show once it's available on free feeds, leave us constructive feedback, and share with your blurred friends and family. Thank you.